There is a constellation brewing in the skies which could potentially turn your world upside down, which could bring massive shocks to the markets and trigger conflicts that can determine the coming years. This constellation is the Mars-Pluto opposition. And in this video, we are going to decode its archetypal signature, its archetypal cosmology, so that we know what to prepare for and how to maneuver this intense energy. Let's go. All right, so there's a fearsome energy brewing and coming together in the skies. And this is the Mars-Pluto opposition, which is constellating, which is basically already constellated right now. And in the coming days, in the coming week, there will be a T-square with the sun as well that is going to enter into this constellation. There will be all in fixed signs, in the signs that are about standing your ground and being firm and hard energy and harshness. So what we can prepare for is some really hard and intense clashes in this coming week. I'm going to tell you in this video exactly what to prepare for, what we can expect for the world, for world affairs, what we can expect for global markets as well. I know a lot of you are invested in the markets. And also what you can and should prepare for yourself, how to best manage the energies of this short but extremely important transit. So let's start this off by looking at the charts so you can see, have a visual image of this constellation and when it's going to be hitting, right? So right now we are here. So on the weekend when I'm recording this, Saturday, Sunday, April, the constellation basically with the Mars-Pluto opposition is already in effect, right? This is already in. And Sun is just entered here into Taurus. You can see this here. Sun is entering on the weekend into Taurus. And it's starting to have this T-square. So it's sitting on the apex of the T-square, which is the most dynamic, one of the most dynamic aspect figures that we have in the celestial harmonics, right? And it's sitting there. Sun is going to be there, and it's going to be there for a few days. So you see, until April 24, roughly 25, it's starting to go out of aspect. So it's these 4 or 5 days that this is really heavy. And then after that, the constellation still stays intact with the oppositions basically until the first week of May, when then the sun is moving out, and then Mars and Pluto also are starting to separate, right? So this is the time and the visual. Now, let's talk about the effects of this constellation. What does it mean, right? Because you ask yourself, okay, maybe you know already the terms in astrology. Maybe you already know this much that you see that, okay, they were all fixed signs, right? Taurus and Aquarius and Leo. So you ask yourself, if you have important planets in the sun, you have your sun or personal planets, or the moon or your ascendant in those signs, in fixed signs, Scorpio, Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, right? You're going to be extremely affected even more so than others, right? So that maybe you can already, I'm sure you're already decoding that for yourself. Let me start with decoding for you the archetypal signature of the fixed signs that are involved, right? The fixed signs that are involved. So why am I saying this is going to be a big clash this week? Because obviously it's Mars-Pluto opposition. Mars is about war, right? Energy, drive, war. It's the warrior. Pluto is about power, right? Deep power, deeply rooted, seated power. And then the sun comes in that constellation, right? Our center of consciousness. So consciousness gets caught up in this power struggle between the warrior and the deep, the dark power from behind the scenes, right? And the consciousness gets caught up in this. But where are they? They're in fixed signs. Fixed signs makes all of this even harder still, makes it all still more intense. Fixed signs are probably the most, that's where you get the most conflict. Why? Because in the fixed signs, in the cardinal signs, things start, Aries, Libra, and so on. But in the fixed signs, that's when everybody has found their position and you're just, this is who I am, this is what I do. If you got a problem with that, we're going to fight, right? All of the fixed signs, they're about fighting like that, right? Even though only Leo and Scorpio are famous for fighting, right? Leo is famous for power, exerting power that is very visible, right? Leo always needs to be seen in their power. So when Leo goes into a battle, and think about it, Mars is in Leo right now. When Leo goes into a battle, they go into the battle only when there's others who can see it, right? For Leo, it doesn't mean anything to win in a battle if nobody saw it, right? Leo needs to be seen. Leo needs to be, their power comes from the visual acknowledgement of their kingship, right? Of I'm the king. Everybody needs to see this. This is Leo energy when they go into a battle, right? And this is why for Leo it's super important to have these kind of visual, perception of dominance or visual perception. If you want to play a Leo, you just give them visually, if they're not very highly matured or spiritually aware, right? You just give them the appearance of having won, and they will be, that's a great tactic to play them. They'll be satisfied, right? They don't actually need to actually win, right? They just need the appearance. And Scorpio is not actually involved in this whole thing because there's no planet in Scorpio. Scorpio is in some way, Scorpio is also well known for power, even more so, right? But Scorpio is kind of the inverse of that. Scorpio's power is deep, is not seen, is behind the scenes. Scorpio is the one who comes into the room and controls everybody, but without speaking, without notice. You just kind of look around, you see like there's this dark, there's a figure in the corner, and okay, they're the boss, right? But they're not showing it. They're not doing anything. They're not asking for any kind of big gestures of come and kiss the ring and whatnot. So they're just controlling things, right? They're just controlling things without their power is underneath, is in the depth, subliminal, right? Acts through manipulation. So both of these are very, very well known for power, right? Leo and Scorpio. But actually, the others are too. All the fixed signs are about a certain way of asserting power over what you have. That's what fixed signs mean. Taurus as well. Taurus is energy, or Taurus is battling or dominance. Taurus is just as dominant. But Taurus's dominance comes from what you have, your resources, right? Taurus is like, it's the bull. Obviously, bulls are going to be dominant, right? Bull, just look at the archetypal image. Look at the image of the bull. But the bull, the Taurus, they're dominant, or they fight for what they have, what they already have. So they're not that well known for this kind of battling behavior unless you intrude on their territory, unless you intrude on what they have, their values, their wealth, right? Their well-being. They're whatever they own. They're very territorial. This is mine. As long as you respect that, they're super nice. They're nice. The Taurus is nice to get along with. Super nice. Super, good up for pleasure, for fun, right? But don't intrude in their territory, right? You intrude in their territory, and they fight until the bitter end, right? That's Taurus. And Aquarius, probably the least known of these four, for being about power. But actually, they are very much so when it comes to ideas, because Aquarius is about fixed ideas, right? So once Aquarius has an idea, it's like, I have this idea that I'm pursuing. Every Aquarius, has some idea that they're pursuing, some weird idea oftentimes, right? Some kind of weird, eccentric idea. This is the idea that I'm pursuing. And when it comes to that idea, you can't argue with them. You can't argue, you can't move them, you can't get them off that trail. You can't try to go and kind of argue against their idea, try to deconstruct their idea or overcome their idea or kind of criticize it, put it in a different, try to somehow battle that idea, and you will see them fight till death as well. Aquarius is going to fight till death. This is why Aquarius is the revolutionary. Aquarius leads the revolution, right? Is the one that goes and dies for the ideas of the revolution, right? Because they fight for ideas. And now let's now get to the planets that we have here. So we have Mars in Leo. Mars is the warrior, right? So imagine you got this warrior, right, with the Leo signs insignia, right? The knight with the Leo lion, and it's ready to go to war. And it's opposing Pluto in Aquarius. Pluto is what? Pluto is the dark power. The dark power sits in the realm of ideas. What does that mean? Aquarius is also technology, right? So this is kind of the dark, hidden, the power behind the scene that acts through technologies, right? Technologies, censorship, media control, control of social media, right? Hackers that are kind of attacking through technology, all this kind of the dark power in the media and the technologies, right? In the social media. That's Pluto and Aquarius. And that's opposing now this big flashy warrior, Mars. Mars is going to Leo and is like, it's time to stand up and it's time to like act, right? It's time to show who's boss, right? Mars is standing up like that. And they're going to go into a confrontation. And as they're going to a confrontation, they're both looking to the side and they're seeing there's a bull. There's a bull sitting on a huge treasure, right? This is Taurus, Sun and Taurus. And that bull is kind of just looking at both of these guys and saying, like, I'm not letting either of you grab my treasures, right? This is mine. If you come here, we're going to fight, right? And this is the energy that we're going into. And potentially, it's going to be a battle between all three of them, right? Massive crashes. So you have with Mars-Pluto oppositions and then the sun getting caught up, this can lead to extreme violence. There can be extreme violence. There can be outbreaks of wars. Actually, what I didn't show you as well, we have in the same time as well a constellation of Venus with Saturn and Rahu. You can see this here, Venus with Saturn and North Node. The karmic node is with Venus and Saturn right now, right? So this adds an interesting twist to this because it means that whatever happens, it's going to be about karmic relationships, Saturn with Venus, important karmic relationships, and North Node, looking into the future karma. So whatever happens in this week, whatever battles happen in this week, it's going to be about karmic relationships that will carry forward for a long time to come. This is not going to be some random battle. This is going to be battle between karmic enemies that are meant to duke it out for years to come. Because you have at the same time Saturn, Venus, North Node, right? This is why this week is so important. It's going to be so important.
Guys, a quick notice. We just launched the Ultrasapien Ascension Report, which is a completely revolutionary PDF report that is based on your astrology and your numerology with your unique combo of your name and your birth details, and it gives you a mind-blowing insight. Everybody who's seen it so far has been absolutely blown away by the level of accuracy and the detail that it gives you in decoding your cosmic blueprint. And this is not like readings that you may see online anywhere else, because every single word in the Ascension Report is tailor-made for you, and it's based on our proprietary database. This is not your, run-of-the-mill general stuff that you get in the astrology apps and so on and so forth. And for now, just for a short time, I'm giving an initial special offer for the YouTube fam, like a loyalty bonus of 50% discount on the Ascension Report. It's usually $77. That's what it retails at, but you're gonna get it at $38.50 if you go on ultrasapien.network and you apply the coupon code YouTube50. So best thing to do, accelerate your ascension, get the Ascension Report.
Basically, when you look at it on the global stage, this can be, I've always said, many times I've looked at this with you, on this channel, we talked about it. We have some harsh years coming, difficult, also huge opportunities for consciousness upgrade, but also there's some massive struggles coming with potentially 2027, 2028, leading to some very, very great war, very big war. I've talked about this a lot on here, right? And if we're going that direction, then in this coming week, you will see some of the important karmic confrontations that will be very, very decisive over these next 2-3 years, right? Because, again, it's going to be confrontations of what? Of karmic enemies, of karmic opponents that are meant to duke it out for years to come in this week, right? Okay, so now let's move on to what could this mean, actually? What could this mean for the world, right? So when we apply this to the global stage, this image, right? The image screams off, so flashy military action. And with what? With power, deep-seated power to bring out deep-seated cyber attacks, potentially. Cyber attacks, power that's sitting somewhere deep in the technology, right? And it's about what? It's about resources, yeah? Taurus, Sun and Taurus, right? So what can we imagine? definitely any type of struggles are going to flare up in this week that are around resources in the world, right? Rare earth minerals, whether that's in Ukraine or whether that's in, Russia, Ukraine, rare earth minerals, whether that's in Africa, right? Africa, West Africa is a big candidate for this. I talked about before on this channel about the Lion of West Africa, Ibrahim Traore, who's now bringing together these other countries. They're uniting almost, right? And they're going against France. They're going hard against France, right? And against French interests, against European interests. The Europeans need the resources there because the French, without the resources, they don't have a way to keep their nuclear plants up. And they're depending on nuclear energy with the uranium. They don't have uranium, the French. They get all the uranium from Africa, right? So they depend on this. They can't joke with this. They can't play around with this, right? South America, elsewhere, blockades of energy blockades we could see. We could see, obviously, this is already going into the economic field, escalations in the tariffs, but I'm going to still speak to you about economics, about the markets, what to expect for the markets, right? Now, let's stay first with the geopolitics. Let's stay with the geopolitics. Any attacks on, there's so many different states where things could happen that I can't even list all of them. Another candidate is in Europe, Serbia, Romania, Moldova. Serbia, Romania especially, right? Because these are states that, they're Hungary, these are states, and Slovakia, right? Slovakia. These are states that are basically either their existing president or the one who's supposed to be a president is starting to side with Russia as opposed to the EU. And the EU is extremely upset about this. The EU is trying to block this. They're trying to sabotage this, right? They're going to do everything. They're going to start war there. They're going to start whatever, attacks and so on, right? They're going to stage attacks there. And all of this is possible. All of this is on the table. Keep your eyes on this in this coming week, right? It's also energy resources are very important there. Pipelines are very important there. Turkey, Israel, Egypt. Egypt has amassed an army right now on the border of Israel, right? And there's going to be conflicts around energy as well. Energy is always involved in here. Energy structures. Energy structures is also Taurus, Sun in Taurus, right? So energy structures, resources, and flashy action, obviously Iran, US-Iran standoff, that's a really big one. That's on the table right now. All of these are potential places for escalation. And in all of this, one big thing, because the sun in mundane also stands for the head of state, the president, it's possible that there's going to be attacks where the head of state of certain countries is going to be targeted. This is in the books, archetypically speaking, in this week's, right? So it's going to be a really important week to check and to follow the geopolitics closely, because whatever happens in this week is going to be so important for setting the tone for the coming years. Are we as humanity able to master this energy on a higher frequency and integrate this energy without going at each other's throats? Or do we need this escalation where the world is going to break out into more and more escalating spirals of violence, right? And pulling all of us down into this big catastrophe, right? In this next week, a big answer to this question will be given, so keep your eyes on it. Now, let's go on markets. Markets are going to be volatile. You can count with a lot of volatility, right? There's going to check out for the VIX, the VIX, right? There's going to be a lot of volatility. We had sort of like a stable motion for some time in the markets, both on the traditional markets and in crypto. I think we can count with a lot of volatility in this last week. A lot of people have spoken of flash crash. Obviously, if you have some geopolitical tensions break through, you might see flash crash, right? There might be a flash crash. This doesn't mean I'm bearish for the markets at all, because as you know, if you followed my other videos, I think that the signatures look very clear to me that starting in May and then going into summer, we're going to be in a super bullish time. We're going to be like in this amazing new, paradigm for technology. So I don't have any worries about the mid to long term, but there might be some volatility, not just for all markets, but basically, especially also for gold. Normally gold is the safe haven, but this time I think it's going to be different. Gold is due for a correction. And Sun stands archetypically for gold, and Sun is caught up in that in that triangle as well, right? So there might be a correction for gold as well. But not financial advice. This is just my sharing the archetypal signatures with you, how I see them, how I read them. Let's get to the personal level. On a personal level, especially if you have any important planets in the first signs of the fixed signs, in the first fixed signs, right? First degrees of the fixed signs. That's the right one. Scorpio, Taurus, Aquarius, and Leo, right? You're going to be hit especially hard. You need to prepare for this. And you can always prepare for, whatever's coming up in your life, archetypically, astrologically by booking a consultation with me. You know where to find the links below, right? But generally speaking, if you have any personal, plans, you're hit harder. Even if not, you will still go through this energy. You'll still have to maneuver this energy because the constellation will always fall somewhere in your chart, right? And the best way to use this energy, right, which is about big flashy action, it's about using powerful technologies, and it's about resources, understanding resources, having a healthy relationship with resources. So the best way to use this is to take bold action in this week, right, to reconfigure your relationship with resources. Take bold action, use technologies, reconfigure your relationship with resources. This is the good way to use this energy. This is how you take that dynamic energy and you channel it into something productive, right? Now, if you are not doing that, if you fail to do that, you will see clashes. You will see a lot of clashes. You will see standoffs, people not yielding, people standing up. And also keep an eye out. In this week, you might encounter some karmic enemies, some karmic opponents. You might encounter some relationships that they will confront you and oppose you, and it will be like, who is this person? Why is they opposing me? But this is not random. This is somebody that's going to play an important role in your life still in the years to come, right? I showed you that signature. This is just the start of, it's potentially going to be the start of or the continuation of an existing sequence where there is some karma that needs to be worked off in adversarial ways, in opposition with somebody, right? Keep your eyes open for that. Either way, it's the best advice that I can give you in this time where there's so much ruthless energy with the Mars-Pluto opposition. It's going to be very ruthless, tough energy. Do not start fights. Do not start wars. Do not start fights, right? Because in this energy, in this climate, if you have a fight, it can very quickly escalate to some place that nobody wanted to see go there, right? Do not start fights. Obviously, if you're attacked, you have to defend yourself. But do not start things. That's the best advice I can give you. Instead, meditate more. Be more calm, right? And see how you can download and how you can manage the energy that's there to channel it into productive outputs, right? Be more productive. Let that energy flow into productivity instead of fights, right? Try to avoid fights and instead channel that energy into productivity. If you are able to do that, you can get a lot done in this week, right? Insane amount, because this energy is super dynamic, extremely dynamic. There's the material resources, there's the technological power, there's the big flashy action, right? All of this, if you bring this together, if you integrate it, it can be super productive. But you have to be able to avoid fights, unless if you're attacked yourself, then you have to defend yourself, right? And keep an eye out for those karmic relationships, karmic adversarial relationships too. Sometimes there's other ways to deal with them. You don't need to go straight, into the frontal attack. There's other ways to deal with them. There's something to learn for everybody involved in that relationship as well, if you are able to bring it to a higher level of consciousness, right? So that's what I can leave you with. And let me know in the comments how you're preparing for this energy, what you're expecting, and what you're going to do in this time. And if you're already seeing some correspondences and correlations with your own experience, let me know in the comments so we have this collective intelligence around the archetypal energies. For now, be well and be blessed, and all the best.